nervous. Okay.
You're good. You're good. I just we're doing the throw you in the pool approach.
Wow, now I'm nervous. Okay. No warm up. Okay, here we
You're
go.
good. You're good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. The sun
This
looks
is
like it
great to
shines.
see you in person.
Is what?
It's great to see you in person because you do look exactly the same that you do on your Instagram,
You
which
imagine if
that's
I
not
didn't?
always the case.
Who is
I
he?
know, well, right?
Yeah.
No, but that had happened to me actually in the past. So that's why I'm like, oh, he looks exactly the
That's
same.
That's great. Well, I love to hear that. You do as well. Oh, I was just drinking a diet Sprite. Is that Sprite?
Yes,
Let's
for
go.
sure.
I was just
But I
drinking
have like
that.
a problem. I cannot drink like only one. So I
Yeah.
have here Diet Coke that is also open, and I have here, and I have water because
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have a problem.
I no, I like the options. That's usually actually, you know what? Hold on. Stall I'm Gavin. I'm gonna get my Sprite.
Go for it.
Talking. I'm gonna join you.
Well, hello, people who's hearing
I'm gonna
this.
grab my Sprite.
Hey, all right.
You made me feel
Cheers.
left out. All right, so I'm gonna get my Sprite too. Oh, there we
Damn,
go.
that is an amazing advertising right
Yeah,
there.
cheers. So this is actually kind of exciting because I feel like I've been following you on social media for I feel like a few years now.
Years now. Me too. Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because I think it's funny just because the amount of that you've grown, not just from a social media perspective, but from like a growth perspective, just to see you from like a physical standpoint, an educational standpoint, like how far you've come, since you were just that person in Gainesville, all that. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Before I start talking, let me just have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, say with my ADHD, I need to stay with one little point really quick before I jump to the other one. So I just
Yeah.
want to say that these feelings are the same for me. I remember that I first discovered for one of your funny videos that you were posting about nutrition. And
Uh-huh.
I love this guy. Like we have like similar perspective. I'm gonna follow him. And then I start seeing like all the comments that you will post. And I just feel so related. I'm like, yes, finally someone that is not promoting bullshit. Oh, sorry. Can I say bad
Yeah,
word here?
yeah, yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Because I curse a
Oh.
lot.
You're good. That's perfect. Well, yeah, I mean, appreciate it. And yeah, why don't you, and it's funny. It's funny you said that too, because I've messaged you about my ADHD as well. So we're in the same boat.
Yeah, we
But
are.
but
All
uh
right. So
but yeah,
now,
yeah, introduce us a little bit and tell us a little about yourself.
okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Gaby. I'm from Venezuela, but I live in the United States since 2015. I graduated with a minor in marketing and a major on journalism. However, that was never my real passion. I started that because I wasn't like, when they're that young, you don't really know what you want to do. But my whole life, I have felt this need and curiosity for fitness and helping others. I used to have an eating disorder when I was a teenager, and I had a really, really bad experience with a coach that basically
Mm,
destroyed my hormones. Based on that, after I went to therapy and I went to the doctor, I decided to take over and take responsibility for my own nutrition.
mhm.
And since 2013, I started to study and certify myself as a strength coach. And then I went indeed in the nutrition era.
Mhm. That's
And
yeah,
that's me.
that's amazing. And I really like your story because your story I can only imagine allows you to have so much empathy for your clients, right?
Yeah.
Like because
It's
you've been through it.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I feel that people are still afraid of getting judged or getting criticized for saying I have an eating disorder. Or maybe I don't
Mhm.
really know if I have an eating disorder, but I'm afraid of eating. And
Mhm.
be open because that's the first step to anything, like talking it out.
Mhm. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's that's when I made the biggest shifts in my life. Instead of like ignoring, my problems or anything like that, it was just like, yeah, let me just call myself out on my own bullshit. But so not only so you decided to take control of your own nutrition. Um, at what point did you decide, this is working for me, and I'm helping myself? When did you make that transition to help other people?
Well, I did it for free for over 2 years.
Hmm.
And when I graduated from college, I wasn't very sure because, we have talked about this imposter syndrome all the
Yeah.
time. I'm like, I should have a PhD. But then I was looking everybody that I have helped, over 60 people for free, how they got results. And I'm like, but I'm so passionate about this that maybe right now at the current moment I cannot afford to go back to school and get a PhD, but I can
Hmm.
keep learning by myself. I can keep like getting a mentor. I hired someone that I look up to and
Hmm.
learn from them. And when I get the time and the money again to go back to school to pursue a PhD,
Hmm.
I can do it. But for now, I just want to keep helping and growing with my clients because
Hmm.
they're like my muse, like when they
Yeah.
ask me questions and I don't know something, I don't like to be the type of coach who says like, oh yeah, it's this. It's like, no, okay, let me look at it up. Let me
Yeah.
see some research, peers review, and based on that, I can give you my criteria and send it to you.
Hmm. And I
Mhm.
love that. That's like music to my ears, because I feel like the strongest thing a coach should say is, I don't know. And I'll find out for you, though. And that's like,
Yeah,
instead of just giving them some BS that might not be the actual truth. So, and I love that
exactly.
that's your approach. And I always love that you are continuing your education too. Like, to me, I'm like, this girl always has like her head in like a book, or like, I know you're in Alan Aragon's like study group
Mhm.
and all that stuff. I'm just like, let's go. Like this, it's amazing.
Well, I feel like, so you can relate to this. With my ADHD, there are a lot of things that I'm not good at it because I choose to don't and to don't learn. But when I have like this curiosity and passion for it,
Hmm.
I don't care if I spend until 3 or 4 a.m. I'm gonna be reading a book and
Yeah.
translate it because usually
Yeah.
everything that I read in English, I try to translate in Spanish so I can explain it
Wow.
to my Spanish clients,
Mm,
and I learn new vocabulary in English and Spanish. So I always have to do a little bit more of work, but at
yeah.
the end of the day, it helps me to retain the info.
Yeah. And that anybody listening can just get an idea of like how badass you are. Like, because
Thank you.
not only are you reading the subject matter in English, that's not your first language, you're transcribing it to be in Spanish so that it can then also help your clients. So like that's like that's absolutely
Thank you.
amazing. So I think, anybody that follows you or doesn't follow you, I think they'll gravitate towards you, because uh, not only do you have the education to back up everything that you're saying, but you also act through it. When did you start getting into like, or actually, why don't you take me through like your fitness origin a little bit, and leading to where you are now?
Whew. How long do we have for this? I'm
Well,
gonna try to
it's a
like
little,
burn
who
through.
knows? Who knows? Take us through it.
All right. So first off, everything started in my country, Venezuela, when I was 15 years old. Let me give you a
Mhm.
little background for those who doesn't really know my culture.
Yeah.
We are known in the country for having the most beauty pageants, like winners type of thing. This beauty
Yeah.
contest. We, as a country, we have the most. So our society is very based on physique and be like wearing makeup and like a lot of those physical aspects. So I grew up in this culture with all my friends were skinny, were wearing
Mm,
makeup, getting like surgeries done since they were 15 just to fit into that type of culture environment.
hmm.
My mom was a little bit more conservative about that. I remember I couldn't wear makeup until I was 15 and like
Mm,
none of surgeries unless I paid for it and I was like all enough for it. So I started to go to the gym and I met this coach and I hired this coach, but he did not have any knowledge, was one of those classical dudes that looks good and start coaching people.
yeah.
And I remember he sent me a terrible diet. I will eat tuna, pineapple, and cucumber for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every
God.
single day. When I would wanted to go out and eat something, he will make me feel so fucking so sorry,
Go for
so guilty,
it.
so guilty
Mhm,
that I will go to the bathroom to throw up.
mhm.
And that's when I started develop bulimia nervous. My mom, thank God, my mom is my best friend, and I cannot hide anything to her. And she found me now. Like every time after I will eat with my family, like on Sundays, I would go to the bathroom mysteriously, and she
Mhm.
realizes. So she knew that I was also at that age when you are a rebel, so your parents cannot tell you like exactly don't do something because
Right.
you more want to do it. So she took me like to this coffee shop, and she said like, "Hey, look, this is my friend. I'm going to come back and have a phone call." That wasn't a friend of her. That was a psychiatrist that she
Wow.
hired from me, but she didn't tell me. And because I'm very extrovert, so I just start talking about, and I didn't realize that the dude was like analyzing me and evaluating
Yeah.
me. So at the end, he said like, "Look, my role is not to lie to you. This is who I am. This is the reason why I'm here. Your mom is not on a phone call. She
Mhm,
actually left. She's coming by in an hour.
mhm.
Let's walk through it." And then I was like in shock because, of course, part of me felt like, oh my God, this is a lie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because nobody told me, but then I like, but I'm feeling better because my darkness is the first time I can speak to someone besides my mom about my darkness, about
Yeah.
why I feel ugly, why I feel fat, why I feel the need that food is bad or good.
Mhm.
So we start working for like 2 years. I get out of that cycle. I, of course, fired that coach who
Good.
ruined my life,
Yeah.
basically, at that moment in my life. But I also thank him a lot
Mhm.
because thanks to that, I found a way for me to take control over my health and
Yeah.
nutrition. And my curiosity improved because I realized that even when my diet was miserable, when I was at the gym, I was feeling like these endorphins and serotonin that I didn't feel outside of the gym. And
Mhm.
I start to correlate it. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this makes me feel something happy even when I don't like my body. I need to keep doing it.
Mhm.
And that's how slowly start to grow that curiosity, passion for fitness in general.
Mhm. So
Mhm.
so I love, and I know you and your mom are super close, and you just saw her recently, which is
Yes.
awesome. But I love that your mom one had sort of like the awareness that, like, listen, Gabby's very extroverted. She'll talk to anybody. I'm literally just gonna drop her off and like put her right into it. So like major kudos to her, because she just knew you in a way that's like, this is just gonna work better for her rather than me just like taking her there and telling her ahead of time.
Yeah.
Um, but and I love that you had like your first initial experience with therapy at such like an important age, right? Where like you said, like your culture was, everybody was focused on like the vanity of just your appearance
Yes.
and nothing else, right? But you had such a good early on experience of understanding yourself, and which had such a tremendous impact on your physical health, right?
And in my mental health, I think it
Yeah.
started from my mind before starting with my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's I'm sure like that experience has just paid dividends for you now.
Yeah, I will always thank my mom for doing that because again, if she had gone the old-fashioned way, telling me like, "Hey,
Mm,
we need to go to a psychologist to talk
yeah.
about it," I would have said no, or I would have been like pissed at her for forcing me to do something
Yeah.
that in my mind back on those days was considered like for crazy people.
Yeah.
And now, I even right now at this point of my life, I think you know this, I go
Mm-hmm.
to therapy because
Yeah.
I love to have a third point of view, more rational when I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking emotional decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I could totally relate too. My mom, I first went to therapy when I was 17, like when my parents split up. So my mom was like,
Mhm.
I think I eventually, I just was like not in a good place. And I was just like, Mom, I need to go talk to somebody. And she was just like, okay. So she took me to go see a therapist. And that was that was groundbreaking for me, like as a young teenager. And yes, and I could totally relate how you said that, even in the States, it was considered like you had to have something wrong with you to go see a therapist, right? And that's why I was so proud of you when you recently talked about going to therapy, because I was just like, let's go, because it's such an
Yeah.
important stigma we need to break, because even if you don't have to be crazy to talk to somebody, you know.
And I remember you sent me a message that I feel like, wow, I don't even know this guy, but I feel so much support from him that it's just amazing. Like, I truly appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like I was so proud, because I was just like, because I've been through that experience as well. And like it's such a, because I can only imagine how you felt, but I know when I first posted on Instagram that I started to go to therapy, I was like so anxious about telling people I was
Yeah,
going to therapy, because you're just playing like these thoughts in your head that what are they going to think about
that's
me, what are they assuming something's wrong with me, or anything like that. But it's really just like your own barriers that you're throwing in
yeah,
front of
your
yourself.
own perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Right.
absolutely love when you post about that. So it was great. So you got better, and then you saw your psychiatrist, you got past your eating disorder. So where's your kind of your journey with like health go from there?
Well, after that, my mom sent me here at 17 to study English. I lived in New York, Terrytown for 6 months the first time.
Where?
Then in Terrytown,
No
New York,
way.
next
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Sleepy
yeah.
Hollow. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a beautiful place.
it is. I mean, there's only one street, there's not much to do, but
Yep.
hey, I was 17 in a different country that I didn't
Right.
speak the language. To me, that was the dream.
Right.
After that, I moved to San Francisco, and after
Wow.
that, I moved to Washington, D.C. But in that process, I was in between. I want to take care of my health, but I'm on my 17th, 18th, and want to eat and drink.
Mm-hmm.
In my country, you're legally allowed to drink when you are 18, but we started at 17. So I was like partying a lot. I gained all this weight even when I was still going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't again happy with myself. But the good thing is like I have a lot of tools that my psychiatrist prepared me with
Mm-hmm.
to avoid triggers and to channel it, those that thoughts about wanting to throw up again after I eat to something else. And that
Mm-hmm.
really helped me when I was an immigrant and I was alone in a country I didn't speak the language or I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
family because all my family is still back home.
Right.
And that's when, even when I gained weight, like for me, for my friend, I'm 5'4" and I was about 180.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of weight compared like right now that I'm 141.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was 40 pounds over.
Right.
And I like, okay, I'm going to start a study more about nutrition instead just like physique and exercise to know
Mm-hmm.
what is the right thing to do based on the data and not based on fat diets like paleo that
Mm-hmm.
was very popular back in the day.
Yeah.
And I started doing that in 2013. Yes, because 2013, I found out Leonard too. And I found out this stuff called macros. And I got so hooked into that I will
Yeah.
watch all his videos. But by the time, again, I didn't speak English. So I
Mm-hmm.
will be with my Google Translator phone, like next to the speaker. So Google will translate it for me and I could
Yeah.
fully understand what Lane was saying. But a lot of times he just speak too fast or with a
Yeah.
slant that I couldn't get it. I'm like, shit, I need more help.
Yeah.
So I got my first nutrition certification. And then in 2015, I found an internship in Gainesville, Florida at a gym, working as a fitness instructor. And they
Mm-hmm.
taught me a lot. And after that, I got some major events in my life that's when I discovered powerlifting and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how everything started for me in nutrition.
Yeah. So again, it goes to show like you've had so many instances where like a language barrier could have stopped you from getting to like the
Oh no.
knowledge that you had, but it never has. So I love that as well. But so before you kind of was there like a moment when you were like that 180-ish pounds where you're like, did you have like a moment where you're like, this needs to change now?
Yes. When I went back home and my family did not recognize me,
Mm,
because in here there's I know there's always shame blaming, but I do feel that people here in that aspect is more polite,
mm-hmm.
and they're not as rude. I don't know if it's just the culture or if it because obesity rates here are higher. So for someone who is just a little bit bigger, that doesn't consider obesity, so they don't actually judge you based on that. But in my
Right.
country, yeah,
Yeah.
everything that how you look or you do, it is very common that they are going to judge you. And when
Mm,
my family say that, I didn't take it at this time of like I'm gonna go back to my eating disorder. I'm gonna go back to the fact that it's 40 pounds more.
mm,
Like this is just now not just for how I look, but also for my health, because then my glucose was extremely too high and they
mm,
start to send me glucophage. It's a medicine for insulin.
mm-hmm.
So that's when I got scared and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start tracking macros and see how
Yeah.
that goes.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as again, it was going back to your roots to kind of, and this way, I guess it was, despite them being maybe more blunt about, how everything was going, it gave you like that little like, okay, need to make some changes so I'm not relying on like medication or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I did like the flexibility that if I track in my macros and
Yeah.
I could see changes, but I
Hmm.
could still have fun. So that's
Yeah.
what it actually got me hooked.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like your internship you started, because I know that was probably like the like maybe just like the groundbreaking thing that got you into, powerlifting.
Wait, what? My major life event?
No, your fitness internship. You said you started as the fitness
Oh, my
instructor at the gym.
yeah. So I remember my English was bad. I was already able to have conversations, but I was very Sofia Vergara. Like I know my
Yeah.
accent is strong, but in the past I couldn't just have this full conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this guy on Tinder. He said like, "Hey, I'm a personal trainer. Why don't you come and work out with me one time?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Okay." So our first day was going to work out. And when I
Nice.
was there, I met the manager, and the manager was Puerto Rican and he speaks Spanish. And we just like click immediately. I told him like my story, how
Yeah.
passionate I was about fitness. And he said, like, "Hey, if you want to volunteer here, you're more than welcome.
Wow.
Like I got you. And an immigrant too, so I got you." I'm like, "All right, when can I start?" And he's like, "Oh, Monday, like I will be here." And it was funny because
Yeah.
after that, with the Tinder guy, I was like, "Look, like, yeah, you cute, but I like the job more. So now that we're co-workers, thank
Right.
you, next."
Right.
And like until today, we're still friends, but
Yeah.
it's just funny that that's how I got into that internship. They
Yeah.
had me a lot first as
Yep.
everything. I start cleaning the machines, cleaning the floor for everybody, and like slowly, like 6 months, 9 months, they started giving me more responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And one day the manager told me like, "We really like you. We need you to get certified as instructor so you can start teaching classes." I did that and so I went from being the girl who will clean after everybody and say hi at the door
Mm-hmm.
to actually teach classes. And after that, they offered me the position to be a personal trainer. So I got another certification, and I started having my first clients. But because I was a student on a student visa, I am not allowed to work, so to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why all these years I would do it for free. The gym will charge,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't get any payment because they would
Oh
take
wow.
away my visa. So
Yeah.
I worked 2 years for free.
Wow. So that's insane. So one, you started off by cleaning the floors, like dusting off the equipment, like doing all these, you know, like very humbling work. Like I used to do the same thing at gyms as well before I got started. But so you start off by that, and then you became a group instructor, right? and then you became a
Mm-hmm.
personal trainer, and then meanwhile you're doing all this for free because
Yes,
your visa wouldn't allow you to get paid for it, right?
exactly.
That's so what a humbling 2 years that was. That's amazing.
I learned a lot. I think my pain was the knowledge that I was getting and the
Hmm.
relationship, because I was seeing it as, okay, this is a way for me from practice my passion, that is fitness, but also to practice English outside of
Hmm.
classes. So people who will be coached by me, the very first step was like, look, she's cheaper, she's good, but you gotta be patient when she speaks to you, because you need to be like easy in use, like easy to understand words. Like you need to understand that this is not her first language. And when people accept to that, they knew what they were signing into, and they helped me. Like I am still in contact with those clients because they
Hmm.
remind me of that little girl who couldn't
Yeah.
barely speak, but will like try to show us how to do something.
Yeah. And I love how you reframed, like, because so many people could look at like those 2 years as like, yeah, I didn't get freaking paid at all. Like what a terrible time. But you reframed it as a time where you learned a ton, right? You got to work with some great clients that, again, that experience helped mold you where you are today, and it helped you practice your English. Right. So you,
Yes.
like, from what could have been like for somebody's like terrible situation, you turned into like, no, this is like free education. Like this whole thing is just like educating me. So
Yes.
that's a great little reframe. So when did you sort of get in the groove of like full on like powerlifting?
So I discovered powerlifting because prior to that, I was prepping myself to do my first bikini show bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that was about 2017, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And the cancer spread too fast for his body, and he died 2 days before my birthday in 2017 April. So I will have the kids of the gene, and I will go really angry, mad, and sad at 12 a.m. when nobody was there at the gym, just to leave way. Like I wasn't punching anything or crying or screaming, but I would like just pick up that bag and do as many reps. I am talking about this.
That's good.
Okay, I will do as many reps as I could and really heavy. And I start channeling that, like, oh wow, I really makes me feel better. Like, forget about losing my dad, doing deadlift, squats, and bench. So I like start to dig into how I can get stronger. And then my interest for bodybuilding shift, and I found out powerlifting. So I looked it up for the powerlifting gym there when I lived in Gainesville. I used to live in Gainesville, and I found American Barbell Club. And I was, oh my God, I was so weird. I was a stalker. I went to the page and I looked it up for every single member. And the only female that I found that it was like, it looked like friendly, like, when you see people on Instagram, you are like, oh, she looks friendly.
Yeah.
I messaged her. She did not reply to me. So I decided to message her boyfriend. I'm like, hi, you don't know me. I'm very interested in powerlifting, but I have no friends. I don't know how to get started. And he's like, I work at this supplement store. If you want to come by and talk, I'm like, okay, I will be there. Like, literally next day, this weird girl from Instagram was like, hi, I'm the girl from Instagram. I need help. And honestly, they were amazing. They helped me, they introduced me, because this gym was more like a private club. So it's
Mm.
not like I could just show up and buy a membership. You have to have a password or make an appointment with the owner in order to
Mm-hmm.
see the gym. So that's why I have to go the other road with these people and be a stalker.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I did my first meet, and I just fall in love with the community and then with the sport.
Wow. Well, one, to go back, like I truly appreciate your vulnerability. Like that's like very much appreciate it. Like that's huge growth, and like that's, you know, obviously I my favorite quality in people is like very like someone who's very genuine, and that's like exactly who you are. So I just want you to know, like, I really appreciate everything that you're sharing with me, like, honestly. And I really love how, again, you know, you used, you didn't like hide from your emotions, but you used that to help get you a little bit better in the gym. And then this is something I would never be able to do. I'm like a introverted, extroverted person, right? So like I won't be the person that like goes up to you, but if you start a conversation with me, like, yeah, I'm rolling, right? So I like, I respect you so much for messaging not only the girlfriend, but messaging the boyfriend of the girlfriend, and then going in the next day, because that's just like such a go-getter attitude. So you kind of just, did you fall in love with the sport like right away?
Yes, actually, yeah, I was never good in sports in the school.
Hmm.
Actually, when I was in high school, I would always say that I was on my period, so they wouldn't make me run or do anything.
Yeah.
That was my excuse every
They're like
single
every
week.
day.
Basically, but in powerlifting, I actually won my first meet overall, and I'm like, oh wow, maybe this is my thing. Like, and I just started, just keep going, keep trying it. Try to get stronger, and I love it. I love it how I transform more my mind, and I was more proud
Mm,
for what I was able to do with my body than just for how I look. Because
right.
even when I appreciate bodybuilding and I think it's a great sport,
Hmm.
I have conflicts in my mind when you are being like, when they're going to pick you based on how you look and not
Yeah.
for all the freaking effort that you have been put in.
Yeah. I totally relate to that, because I used to the gym I used to work out at had so many bodybuilders that would go there. And obviously, if you're like around that many people the whole time, they're like, yeah, you should compete. You should compete. And like I
They
was,
said like it was that easy.
right. And actually, it was easy, but also just like, you know, without talking about everything else that goes into it. So I remember I was like, okay, like I think I would want to do that. And then like the more and more I thought about it, and the more and more like I had such negative thoughts about like taking pictures in the mirror, like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
look as good today or anything like that. I was just like, why would I want to? And again, I respect the sport, but I was like, why would I want to go on stage? If like coming from like an athletic background for myself, where my whole performance is based off somebody who thinks like, oh, he has the ideal body, right? And
Exactly.
I was just like, this doesn't seem like it's not good for my, like, that's not how I like to compete, right? I want to compete based off like
Right.
my athletic performance, or some sort of like intelligence going into it as well. But yeah, so I can totally relate to, that transition of how you felt when, instead of being more like an aesthetics judgment, it was more of like, hey, how did you perform on your meet day?
Oh, I'm a very interesting person. I guess that's how I will describe myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know there were rules. Like I prepped for it, but my coach ditched me 2 weeks prior because her girlfriend started getting jealous of me. It wasn't the same people, it was other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But so, and everything was always respectful, was out
Hmm.
of jealousy, whatever.
Yeah.
So he didn't went with me to the meet, and the meet was in Port St. Lucie, that is 6 hours away from Gainesville. So
Oh
I
wow.
have to drove there. I went with my roommate, but my roommate went because she felt bad for me that I didn't have anybody to go with.
Yeah.
So she didn't even know what was powerlifting. I'm like, please come, I pay for the hotel. You just have to be there and take a picture. Like,
Hmm.
okay. And that's what we did. So I got there and the guys were like, okay, start to warm up.
Hmm.
I start warming up in the elliptical because this was in a gym. And I thought that's the best way for me to warm up for a meet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then they start saying like, Gabriel Angulo on the hall or on deck. I'm like, what? And I was like looking on the floor, like, did I step on something? What is the
Right.
whole, like, all these terminology? So I have
Hmm.
to lock out myself in the bathroom and start reading the rules. I bump out. Well, I didn't bump out, but I didn't make my first squat, either my first bench, because again, I did not have, like, I have to stop. I needed to break
Mm.
that. But once I got it, thankfully my second and third attempt in those ones were good enough to make me win the
Let's
overall weight
go.
class. But I was just like, I'm going to figure it out. Like I will play by ear.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
so you know what I love too is they probably saw you going on the elliptical and they're like, this is genius.
Yeah.
Like,
No, 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 no. In
nobody
the
does this. This
contrary,
is amazing.
I remember there was a dude and he was John and perspective. He approached me, he said like, hey, you have a singlet. That means that you're competing, right? I'm like, yep. I like, yep. And he's like, are you sure you want to be doing that? Because you're about to squat. I like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I was super cocky. Like, yeah, I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And look at him like back and forth. Like, he's like, okay, let me know if you need help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
He was trying
amazing.
to help me. If I ever figured out his name, I would say, I'm sorry for being
Yeah.
such a douche.
Sorry for the douche, but I did take first place.
Yeah.
So could you explain that, like what a handler is for people who might not know?
Yeah, of course. So usually for powerlifting, even when it's not necessary, I will say that a handler for us is like a belt. You don't
Mhm.
need a lifting belt to
Mm.
lift, but it helps.
Mhm.
Same is a handler. Handler is the person who is gonna tell you, hey, warm up here, who's gonna be putting the plates in the bar for you so you don't waste energy on loading and deloading the bar.
Mhm.
And it's also gonna tell you you are 4 out, you are this much, or when you're
Mhm.
going to bench, they're going to take off the barbell for you, give you a lift off, which is
Mhm.
helpful because if you trust that person, you know that they're not going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And that is very important because we're competing. So that's
Yeah.
why I love to have a handler if I can, because it just take off stress out of my plate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've seen Chad do that for a bunch of people. And for those who don't know, Chad is your husband, also your coach.
Yes. Yes.
How
Yeah,
did
yeah, yeah.
so tell us kind of like how, because I know you two do an amazing job of sort of like playing off each other and providing educational content, as well as like a little bit into your personal life. But how did sort of that come about where, because I know he was a coach at some point for you or anything like that?
Mhm. So remember how I just like 2 minutes ago I said I consider myself an interesting person.
Yeah, of
All right.
course.
So I was living in Gainesville. I was
Hmm.
in college. I saw this USPA meet, a federation that I have always liked, and it
Hmm.
was close to the time I wanted to compete. So I signed up for that meet. The thing is, I did not check where the meet was at.
Mm.
And I was living in Gainesville and I saw Greenville and I thought it ends in Bill. They must be close. For some reason, my mind that is gonna be close.
Right.
2 weeks prior, my meet, I looked at the map just to see like where I'm gonna stay, and I found out that it's 8 hours away from where I used to live.
Wow.
So I DM'd the gym that is what's gonna be at, that it chats gym traffic saying like, hey, I'm couldn't wait, I'm going to this meet, like where can I stay if someone can help me? Because by the time I was going by myself, like I didn't have a handler for the meet.
Hmm.
And Chad was the one who replied to my DM. He was very helpful, but then like right the next day, he started following me his personal account
Yeah.
and he started asking me questions about my training. Like, hey, what are you doing so heavy when we're 2 weeks out, whatever.
Yeah.
He says that he was trying to be nice, but in my mind, when I saw that he was the coach, I
Yeah.
like this bitch have girls against me, and he just wants to get inside my mind. So I block him, and I start to create this idea in my head, like, oh, Raya, you have no idea. When I got to chat Jean, and
Yeah.
I asked like I entered all cocky and I saw him and he was like, hey, welcome to Trifle Barbell. How can I help you? I'm Chad, the one that you spoke with. I'm
Yeah.
like, where are we in? And he's like, oh, they're back there. Do you need any help? I'm like, thanks. And I just left. Like that's it. And then he like started DMing me from Trifid Barbell page,
Yeah.
like, hey, you blocked me. Are you okay? Do you need anything? And
Yeah.
I did no reply. I was like,
Right.
this dude wants to get inside my head. He wanna know my game plan. I'm not gonna let it. Then at midday there, I met Bama Burr, and she actually like I told her that I was there alone. She felt bad
Mm-hmm.
for me, and she
Yeah.
started helping me. So she was super helpful. Like she was
Mm-hmm.
my handler at my first federation meet
Mm-hmm.
with USB. And I realized that Chad wasn't a douche, and he was actually kind of cute. So I unblocked him,
Yeah.
and we start talking. And 2 weeks after, he said like, "Hey, I'm going to Florida. Do you think like I can pass by?" I'm like, "Yeah, come visit me." I never thought he was actually going to show up because we didn't know each other. He
Right.
showed up at my door. I'm like, okay. And after that, we spent the weekend together,
Yeah.
and then it's a story. Yeah,
Wow. I
I
love
know.
I love how it began though. Like you just, you're like, this guy is trying to mess with my meat.
No, and I told my coach about it, and my coach insulted Chad, and he like they fight because I
Yeah.
told like, look, this other coach want to get inside my head, and like
Yeah.
my coach DM Chad like, hey, stay in your lane. This is not your athlete.
The drama.
Oops.
I love that. And Chad still coaches you today, right?
Yes, yes. Before Chad, I have my coach that helped me for that meet, and then
Mm-hmm.
I hired Bama as my coach. But because I needed someone who will be next to me, like giving me cues, we at first have a rough path going like as a couple and become
Mm-hmm.
a coach because then he will give me feedback as a coach. But in my
Right.
mind, it was really difficult to differentiate between this is my coach, not my boyfriend at the time.
Right.
But after that, I started to be more humble and
Mm-hmm.
stay quiet,
Yeah.
accept the feedback instead thinking that he was just criticizing me.
Yeah.
And it worked. It really worked out very well. Like I
Yeah.
have done all my 5 past meets with him, and I
Mm-hmm.
have won all those meets.
Yeah. And the one you guys just did, you guys both killed it,
In
right?
November, yeah, we finally got our elite total.
That's amazing.
Elite total in powerlifting is like a cool thing to have
So
for those who
I
doesn't know.
guess to explain to anybody, what would like an elite total, what is like an elite total?
An elite total is based on your body weight and how much you can lift. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, for my weight class that is 148, I will have to have a 745 pounds total. I mean, in the 3 lift that I do, I have to get to that total to be considered elite.
Mm-hmm.
So advanced per se. And I did get it with
Mm-hmm.
my squat, my bench, and my deadlift. And yeah, in powerlifting, that's a big deal because you work so hard to lift this way that you want to have something that it differentiates you from being a beginner, a medium level, and advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's super impressive. And how many years did it take you to get to that?
Let's see. It took me 4 years to get to the league total. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when I won my first meet and I have never really lost a meet,
Mm-hmm.
it's not because I'm very strong. It always also depends on who's going to show up and the
Sure.
type of meet that it is. I want to make that clear because
Yeah.
sometimes you say this to someone who doesn't really know the sport and they're going to believe that you are Hulk. But when you know the sport, you're like, oh yeah, she is strong, but she's not super duper strong
Mm-hmm.
in my sport, in my work. So yeah, it took me 4 years, a lot of patience and dedication,
Yeah.
and I did it. And now, of course, I'm looking for more.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I make the most of your time today. So uh basically the if you didn't know, the name of my podcast is called These Little Moments Podcast. And the reason I called it These Little Moments Podcast is because I was at like this seminar, and it was, I had been going to therapy for a year or two at this point, and I my biggest you could say weakness at the time was that I really had a hard time conveying my emotions and how I felt and all that, like being vulnerable. So I was at this seminar, and everybody was kind of sharing a little bit about themselves, like really deep, like everybody sitting in a circle, like really deep things. And so I was just, I started speaking. I was just like at the most I was like, I don't get too much from fitness anymore. Like especially when I've been in it for so long, I've been a trainer for so long. I was just like, what I get from it is like being around people like you, and you know, the little moments you get of like conversations, and like, you know, cheering somebody on, and all these little things. So that's why I kind of came up like These Little Moments podcast, because it just, in that moment I was like, it was like a firm belief, like, oh, like life is composed of like these little moments that like lead up to the big things in our lives. So my question for
Right,
you,
that's beautiful. I didn't know
thank
that.
you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. So my question for you is, you know, what is like a little moment in your life that might have seemed little at the time, that you can look back on now, that really like has brought you to where you are now?
Mm, I think you. I think living here in the United States, immigrating, like it might seem like something little because a lot of people do it to come here, learn the language, or go to school. And for a long time, I took it for granted. But if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I have to stay in my comfort zone back in my country, I wouldn't become who I am today. And that little reality is what's the game changer of my life.
I love that, and I think that really is like a theme of your life, is like you have just always put yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I like to believe that you know these action movies when the star gets punched in the face and he fell, but then he like get up and he like spit out blood. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, bitch, let's go. I feel that that's me life. Like, okay, I get punched and then I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm ready.
Do like a little
Yeah,
dance after.
like bring it up.
I love that, and that's so true. I also, tell us about your love for Skittles really quick. Maybe, because maybe, who knows, maybe Skittles listens to this and like, this is why we're gonna sponsor.
Dear Skittles, if you are there. Well, so I love candy. I have always loved candy.
Yeah.
And like I remember Skittles, I saw everybody at my first meet eating candy and I didn't have any. So I went to the
Yeah.
CVS next to the venue and
Yeah.
I bought a bag of the Skittles and I started eating. And I was having so much fun. Like,
Yeah.
of course I was nervous, it was my first meet, but I was just eating it and I don't know, I kind of like I related to like that feeling. And then when I
Hmm.
went back to the gym as an intra workout, I will have like 30 to 20 grams of it, just if my workouts will be too long
Yeah.
for the glycogen. And I just started enjoying that it became a habit and I will post about it like just to make a joke, like for fun.
Yeah.
And then it became a little obsession and I know can stop. No, no.
And
Yeah. So they
I
are Skittles. If you are there, my feelings for you are truly.
I, I like, that's like the one thing I really want for you, is like just one day you're
I
like,
miss you.
guys, I'm excited to announce Skittles. I'm the first Skittles athlete.
My dream has come
that's
true.
that's like my internet wish, is like, I just want you to get sponsored by Skittles. It's literally like, it's been
Just
years.
one day to reply my message.
Just
Just
once.
just send me a heart. Pretend. Yeah.
Like your message.
It doesn't you don't have to know me. Yeah, exactly.
Just recognize that I exist.
Yeah, just that. Just that.
Well, again, I super appreciate you coming on my podcast. Like, this has
I
just been
loved it.
such a great conversation, and I love that after years of following each other, like that, we finally had an interaction, and it was great. Where can people find you? Like, anywhere and anything?
Well, they can find me on Instagram as Gaby Powerlifts or on my website that is cognitivenutritionandfitness.com.
Hmm. Awesome.
Also, Ryan, if you allow me to say something, to me it will be an honor to have you in my live stream when you have free time because the fact that you make me feel so vulnerable but open here in your platform is just, I feel just so honored and you're such a good person to talk with that I would love to bring you my platform.
I'd love to. You're making me choke up. A
Very
lot of
interesting
tears on this
person.
podcast. Yeah, I would love to. That'd be amazing. That'd be great.
Thank
That'd
you
be
so
great.
much for inviting me.
Yeah. Do you have a TikTok too? I think I saw you on TikTok.
I do. Everything on my platform is the same in Gaby
Gaby
Powerlifts.
Angulo? Okay,
Yeah, I
perfect.
saw got TikTok. Don't expect much from me there, but yeah.
Maybe, but I want everybody to go anywhere you are, so that's perfect. Awesome. Well, I
Okay.
appreciate you again. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll have to get Chad on the podcast soon too.
I would love to.
Yeah,
His
I'll learn.
version of our story might be a little different though.
That's he's like, yeah, and then she blocked me because I was a totally nice guy.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Well, I appreciate you, and everybody, make sure you check out Gaby. And yeah, thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. Oh, go
Bye.
ahead. Wait. Oh,
Well, it's just I want to take a picture with you,
oh,
but we're
let's do it.
recording.
We'll do it live.
Stop recording. A live? Got
All right.
there. All right.
Ready? We'll do
Smile.
it live.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank
All
you so
right,
much.
guys. Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Bye.